certain jokers in Balatro carry a stigma for being pretty useless. Some of these make sense for their poor reputation. Jokers like Flower Pot, Matador, and Loyalty Card are often lauded as some of the worst choices the game has to offer. Despite that poor rep, they are often recognized as having some thin, microscopic niche. For example, Matador can be pretty good with Burglar or when you have a completely open Joker slot. Loyalty Card can be a pretty consistent 4x molt on blue deck when just Grabber is purchased. Often included in this cohort is Obelisk, which honestly baffles me. I mean, sure, all these jokers I can understand their bad reputation, but Obelisk? Really? Obelisk? Listen, I have my degree from Balatro University. I got Completionist ++ with my own blood, sweat, and tears. I cannot stand any more Obelisk slander. People want to see him reworked, and I swear to God they better not take away my baby boy Obelisk. I'm gonna explain to you why this guy is good and why you should use him. This large lad is honestly my favorite Joker in the game. It has saved my ass multiple times on gold stake runs because of how strong it can be. Obelisk is a rare Joker that will increase its molt by 0.2 times for each hand played that is not your most played hand. Just from reading that description, you might not understand why people find it so hard to work around. It's scaling X molt that you do not need to invest in or add extra cards to your deck for. Why do so many people have a hard time grasping when to pivot or set up an Obelisk then? Simply put, it's kind of unintuitive. To win a regular game of Balatro, you need to do 3 things. Get a source of chips, get a source of mults, and draw the hands that you need to play. One way that lets you do all of these things is using planet cards on weaker hands. Planets will level up a poker hand, increasing their base chips and mults. This is very useful in the hands which are easy to hit but score low, like High Card. Enough planets can essentially invalidate every chip and molt gaining Joker, letting you pick up more of the valuable X-Molt Jokers. What if you don't get a good source of planets then? Levels aren't super easy to uber ramp, and any old rube can tell you that praying for Telescope isn't a good strategy. That's what those plus chip and plus molt Jokers we just tossed in the garbage are for. If you cannot consistently planet scale, then you usually want a plus chips Joker, a plus molt Joker, and as many X molt Jokers as you can stuff into your greasy pockets. A pretty standard Joker composition in Balatro would be something like Spare Trousers, Square Joker, the Duo, Lucky Cat, and Constellation. Now, these 5 are all independently good Jokers that work pretty well together. By that, I mean they're not actively detrimental to one another, nor are they reliant on a specific setup to function. Hell, you could even be so bold as to sub in Flower Pot here. Realistically, you could swap these out for any Joker in the same category, but I'm running with these 5 for a specific reason. I chose to highlight Spare Trousers and Square Joker because they encourage you to almost exclusively play 2 pairs. In terms of all the hands you could be playing, 2 pair is a pretty safe choice for early antes. But it needs a lot of pampering to get you past the ante-8 finish line. Basically any hand that gains 1 or 2 base malt per planet card used works as an example here, but I'm immature and think 2 pair is a tad humorous. By ante 5 or so, unless you get pretty lucky with a blue seal, burnt Joker, or telescope, you can expect most weaker hands you play to be at or under level 5. With levels like that, you are still entirely dependent on your chip and molt Jokers. This is especially the case for the hands that only gain 1 molt per level. The leveled up hand will perform about as well as a low level 4 of a kind, which is certainly noticeable compared to what it was before, but it's nothing astonishing at all. Honestly, ante 5 is about the time these weaker hands fall off. It can take you 3, maybe even 4 hands to clear the blind. But then, you see it. Out of the corner of your eye. The Obelisk. Before we get into the intense Obelisk analysis, I'd like to ask for you to subscribe. It's free and it helps improve my channel. Thank you. Now, I might be a little biased, but a lot of Balatro players act like Obelisk killed their grandma or something. Like, it's such a meme in the community for you to take a rare tag and have the Obelisk waltz in afterwards. First of all, you know better than to take that rare tag. I know you're just being greedy for a blueprint. Yeah, that's right, I can read your thoughts. Second of all, don't pass up on this guy because you've already judged him as terrible. I can understand why you might not want to pick up Obelisk here though. The build that I described earlier is definitely functional. You've also sunk a good amount of time and money into that 2 pair build of yours. Your spare trousers and square joker will continue to scale if you keep aiming for 2 pair. While all of these are good, even correct reasons to continue with a strategy under different circumstances, the situation you're in is secretly a bottleneck. Consider if the ox, the eye, the flint, the psychic, the hook, or the arm appeared at this point in the run. Because of 2 pair's relatively poor strength as a hand, combined with the just good enough scaling from SpongeBob SquarePants, any one of these guys could immediately put you into a bind. The arm either cripples you entirely or drastically puts you behind on econ. The ox and the psychic could also potentially slow down scaling and collapse your econ. And all the other bosses here could very realistically beat your ass and steal your lunch money, as getting slightly unlucky can knock the wind out of you. Compare that to picking up the Obelisk. The investment you have made into 2 pair at this point is explicitly non-committal. Uranus may have a ring on it, but boy did you not pop the question. Think back to the fact that your 2 pair would only be about on par with a 4 of a kind, and suddenly that pivot makes way more sense. To get to this point, if your focus was almost entirely on 2 pair, anywhere from 12 to 24 2 pair hands will have been played. Investing in Obelisk here would give you access to large and fast X-Mult scaling, the likes of which your dinky 2 pair setup would have never seen before. The reason you are able to utilize this is because of where your score is coming from. Generally, there are 2 sources of score in Balatro, your cards and your jokers. The easiest way you can tell which kind of scoring you have is by looking at how screwed you get by a debuffing boss. Card scoring will always trigger before joker scoring, which is the reason plus mult is generally useless when running with PhotoChad. A very common mistake I will see people make is trying to cram one of these playstyles into the other one haphazardly. For example, taking a polychrome card over a purple or blue seal when opening a standard pack. While the polychrome card is not bad, taking it in a strategy with a scaling mult joker does not provide any upside. You're merely relying on the base mult level of your hand at that point. This tangent brings us back around to the Obelisk. Using square joker and spare trousers, a significant amount of your score comes from your jokers, not your cards. The lack of Uranus levels also means that you are not so tied up in one strategy that switching out will lose you massive amounts of score. Continuing to play 2 pair would be the sunk cost fallacy. For those who are unaware, the sunk cost fallacy is the idea of committing to something you recognize isn't fruitful because of how much you already invested into said thing. Imagine trying to fix your broken phone that is so damaged that repairing it would cost more time and money than just replacing it with a newer model of phone. You don't want a new phone, but it would be the better choice. You are going to have to spend money regardless, and a prime opportunity has presented itself. Let's translate that analogy to Balatro. To survive going forwards, you are going to have to expend resources regardless. It's not like the dud 2 pair over here has too much gas left in him anyways. Way more planets, much more glass, and a lot more deck fixing to consistently hit 2 pair, all while being careful of the threat bosses previously mentioned. Obelisk, while being initially worse, will quickly outpace the 2 pair strategy while being far, far safer. In the same way there are initial growing pains to learning a new phone, there will be a little bumpiness in the initial transition out of 2 pair. But the pivot will be objectively better in the long run. Consider it like an investment. Lose a little bit of power in the short term for the ability to steamroll once the Obelisk is effectively online. Now, Obelisk is not a perfect joker by any means. There are plenty of scenarios in which taking it could straight up kill you. Any run in which you rely on a stronger hand, which is to say 4 of a kind or better, will not do well with Obelisk. This isn't to say you can't, but you will get noticeably diminishing returns by not playing your high value hand to build up Obelisk. Your most played hand also can't be significantly planet ramped. At that point, pivoting out of that hand would most likely kill you. It's the same reason pivoting from 4 of a kind to high card will not do well. You lose that large pre-existing planet value. For a successful Obelisk pivot, these conditions need to be met. Dedication to one hand, but not to the point where switching out will lose a significant amount of scoring. This can usually be done at weaker hands below level 5 and stronger hands below level 3. I would say never transition out of secret hands though, you always want to transition into them. Competently scaled chip and molt jokers, red card, green joker, ride the bus, square joker, Wii joker, and runner are all excellent choices that eventually let you coast off that earlier round ramping. And a strong econ setup that can support a safe pivot. Remember what Mr. Krabs says,
"The money is always right!"
Like in real life, having money actually allows you to fix your problems instead of just pretending that everything is fine while everything slowly implodes. Notably, Obelisk is a pretty poor choice with telescope-focused builds. A very startling revelation to hear, I'm sure. Adding on to that, basically every card scoring build benefits immensely from telescope, so I would not recommend picking up Obby on your typical photo chat run unless you plan to hard pivot out of flush or something. With all that being said, I give Obelisk a solid A tier. Not a game-breaking pick, but if you get it, I can't really think of a more reliable Joker on gold stake. It is pretty objectively the best way from ante-1 to ante-8 on gold stake mode. No risk of getting screwed over by debuffs, and no risk of not getting the planets you need. So, have I convinced you to use Obelisk yet? If I haven't, you should tell me why in the comments below. Anyways, thank you for watching. I've been Luxy, and I'll catch you all later.